The fluorescent lights of Westfield Grand Mall flickered at exactly 11:47 p.m., casting dancing shadows across the empty food court. Maya Winters stood frozen in the employee corridor, her phone clutched in trembling hands, staring at the security footage she had just discovered. On the grainy black and white screen, she watched herself walk into the storage room 3 minutes ago. But Maya was still standing in the hallway. She hadn't moved. The sound came first, a wet, dragging noise, like something heavy and boneless being pulled across linoleum. Then the smell hit her, copper mixed with something sweetly rotten, like fruit left too long in the sun. The overhead speakers, silent for hours, suddenly crackled to life with the mall's cheerful jingle, but the melody was wrong. Distorted, playing backwards at half speed. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she noticed the mannequins in the window display across from her. Their heads had turned, all of them, staring directly at her with their blank, painted faces. One of them smiled, actually smiled, its plastic features stretching impossibly wide. Behind her, from deep within the mall's labyrinthine corridors, came the sound of thousands of footsteps, shuffling, dragging, coming closer. The Black Friday sale was about to begin, and Maya had just realized she wasn't an employee anymore. She was merchandise. Welcome back to the channel, my fellow horror seekers. Before we dive into tonight's terrifying tale, I need to know, where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. Are you alone? Are your lights on? You might want to change that after this story. Hit that like button if you're brave enough to hear what really happens at Westfield Grand Mall. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to share with you, it's not just a story. Some of you might recognize this place, and if you do, you'll know why nobody talks about what happens every 5 years. Let's begin. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Westfield Grand Mall hummed with its usual energy. Located in the heart of downtown Providence, the 5-story shopping complex had stood for 37 years, a gleaming monument to American consumerism. Its chrome and glass exterior reflected the gray November sky, while inside, warm amber lighting and piped-in music created an atmosphere of perpetual comfort. Maya Winters had worked at Lux & Luster, a high-end fashion boutique on the 3rd floor, for 8 months. At 23, she was saving money for graduate school, enduring the monotony of folding cashmere sweaters and smiling at customers who treated her like living furniture. The job was mind-numbing, but it paid well, and the employee discount helped stretch her limited budget. The mall itself was a small city, over 200 stores spread across 5 levels, connected by escalators that seemed to go on forever. The building had been constructed in an unusual circular design, with each floor forming a ring around a massive central atrium. From the ground level, you could look up and see all the way to the glass ceiling 5 stories above, where natural light poured down during the day. At night, enormous chandeliers took over, casting everything in a golden glow that felt almost dreamlike. Maya's manager, Constance Blackwood, was a severe woman in her early 50s who had worked at the mall since its opening. She never smiled, never made small talk, and had a habit of appearing silently behind employees when they least expected it. 37 years, she would say, her voice flat and emotionless. I've been here 37 years. I know every secret this place holds. It was an odd thing to say, Maya thought, but Constance was full of odd remarks. She insisted that certain storage rooms remain locked at all times. She forbade employees from working past midnight during the week before Black Friday. She never ever mentioned the mall's anniversary, which was coming up 37 years to the day on Black Friday itself. The other employees whispered about the disappearances. Every 5 years, like clockwork, someone vanished during the Black Friday rush. The mall management blamed the crowds, the chaos, The sheer insanity of thousands of shoppers cramming into the building at once. People got separated, they said, lost in the shuffle. Most turned up eventually, confused and disoriented, claiming they couldn't remember where they'd been, but not everyone came back. 5 years ago, Derek Torres, a security guard, disappeared. 10 years before that, a teenage girl named Natasha Pierce vanished while shopping with her mother. The list went back decades. Maya had found old newspaper clippings in the break room one day, stuffed behind the microwave. Each article described the same thing: person missing, massive search, eventually called off. The photos of the missing stared out from yellowed newsprint, their eyes seeming to follow her. Maya had laughed it off at first. Urban legends. Every old building had them. But as Black Friday approached and Constance's behavior grew stranger, constantly checking the calendar, muttering numbers under her breath, casting nervous glances toward the storage room, Maya felt a creeping unease settle over her like a cold fog. Something was wrong with Westfield Grand Mall. She just didn't know how wrong until she found the ledger. It was November 18th, exactly 1 week before Black Friday, when Maya discovered the ledger. She had been tasked with organizing the storage room in preparation for the massive shipment of merchandise arriving for the sale. Constance had been unusually insistent that Maya work alone, which was strange. Company policy required 2 people for inventory work. But Constance had stood in the doorway, her pale face tight with something that looked like fear or anticipation, and said, "You're responsible for this room tonight. Don't open any boxes marked with red tape. Just organize what's already here." The storage room was larger than Maya had expected, extending far back into the building's infrastructure. Industrial shelving units reached toward the ceiling, packed with boxes, garment bags, and sealed containers. The air was stale and cold, much colder than it should have been. Maya's breath formed small clouds as she worked. She was moving a stack of shoeboxes when she noticed the gap in the wall, not quite a crack, but a seam where 2 panels didn't quite meet. Behind it, she could see darkness and something else. The faint glow of red light. Maya glanced toward the door. Constance had left an hour ago. The mall had closed. She was alone, against every instinct screaming at her to leave it alone. Maya pulled at the panel. It swung open easily, revealing a narrow passage lined with exposed pipes and electrical conduits. The red light came from deeper within, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The passage led to a small room she hadn't known existed, a space between the storage area and the main building structure. Inside, lit by emergency lighting, was a desk, a filing cabinet, and walls covered in photographs. Maya's hands shook as she examined the pictures. They showed the mall throughout its history: grand opening ceremonies, holiday celebrations, anniversary sales. But there were other photos too, security camera stills showing people she recognized from the newspaper clippings. Derek Torres, the security guard, standing in this very storage room, holding a box. Natasha Pierce, the teenage girl, in the corridor outside, her face blank and empty. Others she didn't recognize. Dozens of them, all photographed in the moments before they disappeared. On the desk sat a leather-bound ledger, its pages yellowed with age. Maya opened it with trembling fingers. The first entry was dated November 25th, 1988, the mall's grand opening day, which had been deliberately scheduled for Black Friday. The architect has approved the foundation. 7 souls bound to the structure, sealed within the cornerstone. The mall will thrive. The bargain is set. Every 5 years, on the anniversary, 1 tribute to maintain the prosperity. The merchandise must be fed. Maya's vision blurred as she read entry after entry. Names, dates, detailed descriptions of how each person had been processed. The word appeared again and again. Processed. Like they were products. Like they were inventory. The most recent entry was dated 5 years ago. Derek Torres, security officer. Processed in storage room 3C at 11:47 p.m. Bound to item #2847. Leather jacket. Men's XL. Currently on display, awaiting sale. Merchandise performing exceptionally. 3 customers have reported magnetic attraction to the item. The architect is pleased. Maya dropped the ledger, backing away until she hit the wall. Her mind raced, trying to process what she'd read. It was insane. It had to be some kind of sick joke, some elaborate prank by employees with too much time on their hands. But then she remembered Constance's words. "I know every secret this place holds." And she remembered the way certain items in the store seemed to draw customers in, how people would become fixated on a particular piece of clothing or jewelry, how they'd pay any price, their eyes glazed and distant. Maya grabbed the ledger and ran. She burst out of the storage room into the main corridor, her footsteps echoing in the empty mall. The overhead lights had dimmed to night mode, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. She needed to get to security, to show someone what she'd found. The escalator in front of her was moving, running upward even though the mall was closed and all the escalators should have been stopped for the night. Maya approached slowly, her heart hammering. On the steps, impossibly, were shopping bags, dozens of them, from stores throughout the mall, moving upward in an endless procession. Each bag was full, bulging with merchandise, and from inside them came sounds, whispers, so faint she almost convinced herself she was imagining them. She leaned closer to one bag from Lux and Luster, her own store. The whisper became clear. "Help me, please. I can't remember my name. I can't remember my face. I'm in the red dress. Someone please buy the red dress. Please let me out. Please." Maya stumbled backward, nearly falling. The voice cut off abruptly, and the escalator stopped. All at once, every shopping bag on the steps collapsed, empty, their contents vanishing like they'd never existed. The mall's PA system crackled to life, and Constance's voice filled the air, flat and emotionless as always. "Maya Winters, please report to storage room 3C. We have a special promotion that requires your immediate attention." Maya Winters to storage room 3C. Maya ran. She didn't head for security or the exits. Pure instinct drove her toward the central atrium, toward the open space and light. But as she reached the railing and looked down at the ground floor far below, she saw them, mannequins, hundreds of them, arranged in neat rows across the marble floor, all facing upward, all looking directly at her. And in the center of them all stood Constance, still wearing her manager's blazer, her face tilted up with that same emotionless expression. "It's almost time, Maya," Constance called up, her voice echoing. "The sale starts in 7 days. The architect needs to know, will you be working the floor, or will you be part of the inventory?" Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A text message from an unknown number. "Item #30 Nina 2 is ready for processing. Report for final preparations. The red dress is waiting for you." Maya didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Every time she closed eyes, she saw those mannequins, their heads turning in unison. Constance's cold smile. She had fled the mall through a service exit, triggering an alarm that she knew would cost her job, but she didn't care. She needed to understand what she'd discovered. The ledger sat on her coffee table, its pages open to the most recent entries, as she frantically searched online for information about Westfield Grand Mall. What she found chilled her to the bone. The mall's architect, a man named Vincent Ashmore, had disappeared in 1989. 1 year after the building's completion. He had been a rising star in commercial design, known for creating shopping centers that became wildly successful. drawing customers from hundreds of miles away. But there were rumors, whispers in architectural forums and true crime blogs that Ashmore had been obsessed with sacred geometry, with the idea that buildings could be more than just structures, that they could be alive. His designs always featured circular layouts, central atriums that served as hearts, complex networks of corridors that branched like veins. And each building, if you looked at the blueprints carefully, contained hidden rooms, spaces that didn't appear on official plans. Rooms like the one Maya had found. One blog post, written by someone claiming to have worked at an Ashmore-designed mall in Ohio, described nearly identical experiences. Merchandise that seemed to draw customers in, disappearances during major sales events, employees who acted strangely and spoke in flat, emotionless tones. The post ended abruptly mid-sentence. The blog hadn't been updated in 5 years. Maya's phone rang at 3 a.m., making her jump. An unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. The message was Constance's voice, but wrong, layered with others. Dozens of voices speaking in unison. You can't run from your shift, Maya. You're scheduled to work Black Friday. We're all scheduled. Forever. The next day, Maya called in sick. And the day after that. But on the third day, she received a registered letter, delivered by courier. Inside was a work uniform from Lux and Luster, a red dress shed never seen before, in exactly her size. Pinned to it was a name tag with her photo. But the name wasn't hers. It read, Item #3 Neen 2. Underneath the dress was a note in Constance's handwriting. Your processing begins in 4 days. The architect requires punctuality. You will report to storage room 3C at 11:47 p.m. on November 24th. Resistance will result in immediate conversion. We look forward to your cooperation. Maya's hands trembled as she held the dress. The fabric felt wrong, too warm, almost body temperature, and it seemed to pulse against her palms like it had a heartbeat. When she tried to put it down, her fingers wouldn't let go. The dress clung to her skin, and for a terrifying moment, she felt it trying to pull itself onto her body. She threw it across the room with a scream. It landed on her chair, draped perfectly as if someone had carefully arranged it there. That night, Maya made a decision. She would go back to the mall, but not as a victim. She would find out everything she could about Vincent Ashmore, about the ritual, about how to stop it. The ledger had to contain answers. There had to be a way to break the cycle. She contacted Theo Brennan, a former employee who had worked at the mall 10 years ago and commented on several true crime forums about the disappearances. After some convincing, he agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. Theo was in his early 30s, nervous and jittery, constantly glancing over his shoulder. He had aged badly, deep lines around his eyes, gray streaking his dark hair despite his youth. You found the room, he said. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded. The ledger, the photographs. I need to know what you know. Theo took a long drink of his coffee, his hands shaking. 10 years ago, I was dating Natasha Pierce, the girl who disappeared. We worked at different stores, but I used to meet her for lunch every day. His eyes went distant, haunted. The week before Black Friday, she started acting strange, distracted. She said certain items in her store were calling to her. Whispering, I thought she was joking. What happened? Black Friday morning, the mall opened at 6 a.m. By 6:15, Natasha was gone. Security footage showed her walking into a dressing room and never coming out. They searched for hours. The room was empty. But I knew something else had happened. He pulled out his phone and showed Maya a photo. It was a red dress on a mannequin in a store window. The same dress that was now sitting in Maya's apartment. 3 months later, I saw this in a boutique on the 4th floor. I'd never seen it before. But the moment I looked at it, I heard Natasha's voice. She was trapped inside it, Maya. Her soul was bound to that dress. She was begging me to buy it, to set her free. Did you? Theo's face crumpled. I tried. I bought it. I took it home. But the moment I got it back to my apartment, it vanished, just disappeared. And when I went back to the mall, there it was again, on display, like I'd never touched it. That's when I understood. The items can't leave the mall. They're part of the building. The souls inside them are anchored to the structure. Maya felt her stomach turn. How do we stop it? You can't, Theo whispered. I've spent 10 years researching. The ritual is woven into the foundation of the building. Vincent Ashmore didn't just design the mall, he turned it into a living entity. It feeds on souls, converts them into merchandise, and uses the act of shopping itself as a form of worship. Every purchase is like a prayer, every sale empowers it, and every 5 years it needs a fresh sacrifice to maintain the power. There has to be a way. The ledger mentioned the cornerstone, 7 souls bound to the foundation. Theo leaned forward, his expression intense. That's the key. The original 7. They're the foundation of the entire ritual. If you could somehow free them, the whole structure might collapse. But they're not in merchandise, Maya. They're in the building itself, sealed into the walls during construction. Where? The central atrium. At the very bottom, beneath the floor, there's a cornerstone with their names carved into it. But you'd have to get to it, break it, and do it all before your processing time. And the mall won't let you. It's aware now. It knows you're a threat. Maya left the coffee shop with more questions than answers, but at least she had a target. The cornerstone. She had 4 days to figure out how to break it, but that night, things escalated. She woke at 2 a.m. to find every light in her apartment on. The red dress was no longer on the chair. It was laid out on her bed, right next to her, as if someone had placed it there while she slept. On her bathroom mirror, written in what looked like condensation but didn't evaporate, were the words, "Try on your uniform. The architect insists." Maya grabbed her keys and fled. She couldn't stay in her apartment. But as she reached her car in the parking garage, she found all 4 tires slashed. On the windshield was a Lux and Luster business card. On the back, in Constance's handwriting, 3 days remaining. Your absence has been noted. Disciplinary action will follow. Maya ran. She checked into a motel on the outskirts of town, paying cash, using a fake name. She barricaded the door and sat on the bed with the lights on, the ledger open in front of her, searching desperately for any clue about how to destroy the cornerstone. At 3:33 a.m., her new motel TV turned on by itself. Static filled the screen, then resolved into security footage of the mall. But it wasn't from the present, it was from 1988, grainy and dated. She watched as construction workers sealed a large stone into the floor of the atrium. 7 people stood around it, not workers, but ordinary people, looking dazed and confused. As Maya watched in horror, the workers pushed them forward, one by one, and their bodies simply sank into the stone as if it were liquid. Their mouths opened in silent screams as they vanished. The last image before the TV went dark was Vincent Ashmore's face, staring directly at the camera with hollow, empty eyes. His lips moved, and though there was no sound, Maya could read the words, "The building is alive, and it's hungry." Her phone buzzed. A text from Constance. 2 days. The red dress is waiting. Don't make the architect come to you. November 24th, 11 p.m. Maya stood outside Westfield Grand Mall, bolt cutters in her backpack, Theo's instructions memorized. She had 47 minutes before her scheduled processing. 47 minutes to reach the cornerstone. Break it. and pray that Theo's theory was right, that destroying the foundation would collapse the entire ritual. The mall's main entrance was locked, but Maya had planned for this. She'd stolen Constance's master keycard during her last shift, weeks ago. Just one of those impulsive actions that now seemed like fate. The door clicked open, and Maya stepped into darkness. The mall at night was a different creature entirely. No lights, no music, no comforting hum of commerce. Just vast, empty spaces and the sound of her own breathing. But she wasn't alone. She could feel them, the souls trapped in the merchandise, in the walls, in the very structure itself, watching, waiting. Maya ran toward the central atrium. Her footsteps echoed impossibly loud in the silence. Behind her, she heard other footsteps beginning to follow. Slow, deliberate, multiple sets. She didn't look back. The atrium opened before her. 5 stories of circular emptiness. In the center of the ground floor, visible even in the darkness, was the cornerstone, a massive square of dark granite, engraved with symbols that hurt to look at. 7 names were carved around its perimeter. Maya raced down the motionless escalator, jumping steps, her backpack bouncing against her spine. The footsteps behind her multiplied. Dozens, hundreds. The mall was waking up. She reached the cornerstone and dropped to her knees, pulling out the bolt cutters. It was a desperate, probably useless gesture. How do you cut stone? But she had to try. The moment the metal touched the granite, the entire building shuddered. The lights blazed on all at once, blindingly bright, and Maya saw them. Employees, hundreds of them, standing in concentric circles around the atrium, all wearing the same blank expression, all staring at her. Constance stood at the front, holding the red dress. "Your shift begins in 42 minutes," Constance said, her voice echoing with dozens of others beneath it. "You're early. The architect appreciates punctuality, but this is inappropriate behavior. You cannot damage company property." The employees began to move forward, their steps synchronized, closing the circle. Maya swung the bolt cutters at the stone. They bounced off uselessly. She tried again. Nothing. The stone was impossibly hard, ancient, reinforced by something more than physical matter. "You can't break it," Constance said. "Closer now. It's been trying for 37 years. Employees have tried. Customers have tried. They all became inventory, just like you will." But Maya had noticed something. The names on the cornerstone were glowing now, pulsing with the same red light she'd seen in the hidden room. And the ledger had mentioned something, a phrase she hadn't understood at the time. "The merchandise must be fed." Maya stopped trying to break the stone. Instead, she pulled out the red dress from her backpack, the one that had appeared in her apartment, the one meant for her processing. She'd brought it with her, thinking she might need it as some kind of offering or distraction. Now she understood. The dress was already bound to her. It was meant to contain her soul. But the binding worked both ways. The ritual required consent, not conscious consent, but the act of putting on the uniform, of accepting the role. That's why Constance had been so insistent that Maya try it on. Maya held the dress over the cornerstone. "The architect wants a tribute," she shouted. "Here, take it. But you don't get me with it." She dropped the dress onto the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the dress began to smoke. The fabric writhed like it was alive, trying to pull itself away from the stone. But Maya pressed down on it with both hands, holding it in place, feeling the heat searing her palms. The cornerstone cracked. A sound like thunder rolled through the building. The employees stopped moving, their faces flickering between human and something else hollow. Empty, like masks, slipping to reveal nothing beneath. "No," Constance whispered, and for the first time, Maya heard genuine emotion in her voice. Fear. "No. You'll break the bargain. You'll free them all. The architect will. The cornerstone split open. Light erupted from the crack, not red, but white, pure and bright. 7 shapes rose from the stone, translucent, barely visible, but definitely there. Souls. The original 7, bound for 37 years. They hovered above the cornerstone for a moment, then shot upward, passing through all 5 floors, through the glass ceiling, into the night sky. The building screamed. It was a sound no building should make, a wail of rage and hunger that made Maya's ears bleed. The floor beneath her began to crack, spreading outward from the cornerstone in a spiderweb pattern. The lights exploded one by one. Display windows shattered. And the employees, they collapsed. All of them. Hundreds of bodies hitting the floor at once. But they weren't dead. They were waking up, blinking, confused. Maya could see the life returning to their eyes. The awareness. They'd been trapped too, their wills subsumed by the building's hunger. Constance fell to her knees, her face finally showing expression anguish. 37 years, she sobbed. I've been here 37 years. I can't remember who I was before. I can't remember my name, my real name. The mall was collapsing. Not physically, not yet, but spiritually. The force that had animated it, that had turned it into a living predator, was dying. Maya ran. The fire department arrived at 1:47 a.m., responding to multiple reports of structural damage and people trapped inside. They found hundreds of confused individuals wandering the mall, unable to explain how they'd gotten there or why they were in employee uniforms. Most of them hadn't worked at the mall in years. Some hadn't worked there in decades. Constance Blackwood was found unconscious near the central atrium. When she woke up in the hospital 3 days later, she had no memory of the past 37 years. The last thing she remembered was interviewing for a temporary seasonal position in 1988. She was 19 years old. Her driver's license said she was 56. Maya sat in the emergency room, her hands wrapped in bandages from the burns Shed sustained, holding the dress down on the cornerstone. Police had questioned her extensively, but Shed stuck to a simple story. Shed come to the mall late to retrieve something Shed left behind, found people wandering around in the dark, and called for help. They had no reason not to believe her. The ledger Shed turned over to them anonymously, mailing it to the police station with no return address. Shed'd seen the news reports. Investigators were calling it the strangest case in the department's history. A cult operating inside a shopping mall for nearly 4 decades, using it as a front for something. The details were still being worked out, but Maya knew the truth, and so did Theo, who'd met her at the hospital with tears in his eyes. They found Natasha, he said, his voice breaking. She was in the mall. She doesn't remember anything, but she's alive, Maya. She's alive. She hasn't aged a day. It's like she was frozen in time. Others were being found too, reported missing over the span of decades, all of them walking out of the mall confused and disoriented. Derek Torres, the security guard, was discovered in a storage room, still wearing his uniform from 5 years ago, unable to explain where had been. The girl from 15 years ago, the man from 20, all the way back to the beginning. The souls had been released, the binding broken. The building was just a building again. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching her. A week after the incident, Westfield Grand Mall was officially closed pending investigation. The city council was discussing demolition. Vincent Ashmore's name had resurfaced in the news, with journalists digging into his other projects, finding disturbing patterns in all of them. Maya returned to her apartment to find it exactly as Shed left it, except for one thing. On her kitchen table was a business card Shed never seen before. Heavy black stock, embossed with silver lettering. Ashmore Architectural Designs building tomorrow's cathedrals. On the back, written in flowing script, The Westfield contract is terminated, but there are 6 more cathedrals awaiting their tribute. Thank you for your interest in our firm. Well, be in touch. Maya's hand shook as she held the card. 6 more malls. 6 more living buildings, feeding on souls. The cornerstone was broken, but Vincent Ashmore's work wasn't finished. And now Maya knew it existed. Maya tried to throw the card away. She tried burning it in her sink, but every time she destroyed it, it reappeared on her desk at her new job, in her mailbox, tucked into books she was reading. The message was clear. Ashmore knew who she was. He knew what she'd done, and he was waiting. 3 months after the Westfield incident, Maya received a package. Inside was a laptop and a thumb drive. No note, but she knew who it was from. The thumb drive contained files, architectural plans, newspaper clippings, police reports, 6 malls across the United States, all designed by Vincent Ashmore between 1985 and 1988, all featuring the same circular design, the same central atrium, the same hidden spaces, and all reporting the same strange pattern: people disappearing during Black Friday sales every 5 years. The laptop had a single file on the desktop, a video. Maya's finger hovered over the play button for a long time before she finally clicked it. The video showed Vincent Ashmore, but not his head, appeared in the old construction footage. This was recent shot in what looked like an expensive office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing a city skyline Maya didn't recognize. Ashmore had aged, but not naturally. His face was smooth, ageless, his eyes dark and knowing. "Hello, Maya Winters," he said, his voice rich and cultured. "I hope you don't mind me reaching out directly. What you did at Westfield was impressive. Expensive, but impressive. You cost me 37 years of investment and a thriving revenue stream." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You see, Maya, I didn't disappear in 1989. I evolved. My clients, the real ones, the ones who understand what I'm building, they pay me not in money, but in years. Every soul fed to my cathedrals adds to my lifespan. I've lived 6 lifetimes already, and I have no intention of stopping." He stood, walking to the window. "But here's the thing about breaking a cornerstone: the souls you released. They don't just disappear, they linger, they remember, and some of them are quite angry. Particularly the original 7 from Westfield." Maya's blood ran cold. "They're attached to you now, Maya. You freed them, so they're bound to you. They'll follow you wherever you go. And my other cathedrals? They can sense them. They're hungry. They'll draw you in like moths to flame." Ashmore turned back to the camera. "So here's my offer. Help me repair Westfield. Reinstate the cornerstone. Bind new souls to replace the ones you freed. Do this, and I'll release you from the connection. The 7 will move on, and you can live your life. Refuse, and they'll haunt you forever. Eventually, they'll drive you mad. Or worse, they'll lead you to one of my other cathedrals, and you'll become part of the inventory." He leaned closer to the camera, his expression deadly serious. "Black Friday is in 9 months, Maya. That's when the next tribute is due at the Madison Square Gallery in Ohio. I'll be watching to see if you arrive, either to help me or to try to stop me again. Either way, I win, because you can't resist. The 7 won't let you." The video ended. Maya sat in silence, staring at her reflection in the black screen. Then she felt a presence behind her. She turned slowly. 7 shadows stood in her living room, barely visible in the evening light. Not threatening, but definitely there, watching, waiting. She could feel their expectation, their need. They wanted justice. They wanted the other souls freed. They wanted Ashmore stopped. and they'd chosen Maya to do it. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Madison Square Gallery. Black Friday. Will you be shopping with us? Maya looked at the shadows, at the laptop, at the architectural plans still on her screen. 9 months, 6 malls, hundreds of trapped souls. She opened her laptop and began to research. The hunt for Vincent Ashmore had begun, but deep in the ruins of Westfield Grand Mall, in the hidden room behind the storage area, the ledger lay open to a new page. And fresh ink was writing itself across the paper. Maya Winters. Status: active. Classification: hunter. Current assignment: Madison Square Gallery. Estimated processing date: pending. Note: subject: shows resistance to standard protocols. The architect is intrigued. Recommend enhanced conversion methods. The building might have been broken, but it was still writing, still recording, still hungry. And somewhere in a penthouse office, Vincent Ashmore smiled as he watched the security footage of Maya's apartment through her own laptop camera. "Welcome to the team, Maya," he whispered. "You just don't know it yet. The end, or is it?"